So tired of looking at this paper. Let's stress mice and flux matter. Okay, so let's stress mice. Not expected. This is gonna be annoying. Stress juvenile mice. I don't like given. It's gonna be like perfused or whatever. It is expected that stressed juvenile mice exposed to a knockout. Expected in a knockdown of the glucocorticoid receptor in juvenile mice. We'll do what? Well, dexterity said that our friends were very distressed. Untreated? No. I don't want that. I care about that. I care about that. I care about that. What's the word? Oh, I should probably open the chat. By knocking on the receptor within the center of mental be insensitive to the what? Neuromodulatory. It's not a word. Oh, it is now. Is this the paper I wanted? No. That's the paper I wanted. That's not really what I want. But I don't know, expand on the ground. Relatively normal physiology. It's not exactly it. Man, you could put neuro in front of anything and it's still somehow a word. That's pretty good. Therefore, should yeah, narrow butts. Therefore, should dysregulation within the central amygdala be responsible for right ethanol preference? Man, every time I get an email from my graduate school account, it's always like a nightmare. It's like, oh God, what did I screw up now? Why is somebody yelling at me? Every time I wake up, every time I look at my phone and the light's blinking green, it's like, oh crap, somebody emailed me something and I'm probably going to be yelled at. I don't know what that thumping is upstairs. They've been doing it for weeks and it's the worst thing ever. Have they told me what I did wrong? What, in general? This was supposed to have been done at one point, but I was working late in the lab and I haven't really gotten around to it. It's not really a thumping, it's like a sound of somebody scraping up old carpet or something. But knocking down the glue, this is really shitty writing. Juvenile stress-induced dysregulation is responsible for anal preference in adulthood. Juvenile stress-induced dysregulation is responsible for heightened anal preference in adulthood. I can't write at all. I'm so tired of looking at this stupid paper. It was supposed to have been out the door ages ago, and they keep sending it back with issues, and it's like, ugh. It's like I'm duct taping another experiment onto the top of it. Trying to change as little as possible. Do not stress-induced dysregulation within the central amygdala will be responsible for heightened ethanol preference. Therefore, animals treated with the siRNA knockdown construct. The knockdown. Therefore, animals treated with the knockdown construct. Similar to the problem they had. Okay, so this experiment that I used to do, or that I proposed initially, was okay. It was very tenuous, but I put the original paper together in like a week, whereas the original one that I had to do before, which I had to throw in the garbage, I put together in like 2 months. So that's the problem. So it didn't have the world's greatest experimental design, but it was good enough. So the thought is that chronic stress produces stress hormones, and these stress hormones, corticosteroids and whatnot, go in your brain, or are released in your brain, and bind to glucocorticoid receptors, and then that stimulates a whole bunch of downstream pathways, which results in messed up neurophysiology and transmission and dysregulation of inhibitory and excitatory signaling and a whole bunch of other things, neuronal atrophy and dendritic spine retraction, and none of that matters. So the thought is, okay, well, that's a problem. The other thought is, I'm looking at alcohol addiction. So, okay, it makes sense, intuitively, that if you're stressed, you will drink alcohol. I mean, that's a thing we've all observed in life because we're people, and that's what people do. You stress out, you drink. There, done. Makes sense, right? Wrong, because that isn't really demonstrated very well in an animal model. If you stress out a bunch of rodents and you give them ethanol, they will not prefer it exactly. So there's a lot of papers that say if you stress animals and you give them ethanol, they won't drink more. There are papers that say they will drink more. There are papers that say they'll drink less. So that's not really very well defined yet, but there is consensus on the fact that if you stress juvenile animals, they will prefer alcohol in adulthood more than either unstressed animals will or adult animals stressed. So there are some sort of unique neurological adaptations that occur when you stress a juvenile animal versus an adult animal that then result in heightened ethanol preference. And this paper is trying to find out what they are. So what I initially proposed was, okay, look, chronic stress does a bunch of things and it negatively impacts various physiological bits in your brain, but chronic treatment with SSRIs, like your antidepressants, your Prozac, whatever, has been shown to A, reverse some of those negative neurological adaptations, increase synaptic strength and all that good stuff, and B, also act as sort of like a protective agent against the negative impact of stress hormones within the brain, especially the hippocampus and other various regions like that. And I thought, well, if you take an animal and expose it to chronic stress when it's young, and then you also give it SSRIs at the time, well, you have a protective effect against the genesis of alcoholism in adulthood. Because if you're stressing the animal and you're also giving the animal a drug that is known to be preventative or, have like neuroprotective abilities against stress, that would make sense, right? Because then you're giving the animal a drug which should make the stress not work, and then when the animal is given the choice between alcohol and non-alcohol, it's not going to have as much of a preference because for all intents and purposes, its brain is relatively unstressed because it was given that drug. Now, to me, that made sense. I gave it to the reviewers. The reviewers said, no, it's not good enough. It's not specific enough. I'm not going to find the results that I want. So I thought, okay, fine. I let it sit for a couple of weeks because I was really busy, and now I have to get it out the door. So I'm taking that entire first half and throwing it in the garbage, and I'm going to look specifically at the central amygdala and specifically at the action of the glucocorticoid receptor, which is a receptor for stress hormones, and this is my working theory for why animals are dumb. So, or alcoholic and dumb. So my thought is, look, chronic stress and the production and release of stress hormones is known to do a lot of bad things to various parts of the brain that are implicated in addiction. Hippocampus, nucleus accumbens, amygdala, the ventral tegmental axis, VTA, whatever. And that's great. But let's just focus on the amygdala, because think about it. Dysregulation within the amygdala is often correlated with the onset of anxiety disorders, which is to say there's an imbalance between inhibitory GABAergic signaling and excitatory glutamatergic signaling. If you have not enough inhibitory signaling and too much excitatory signaling within the amygdala, your whole, traditionally fear, emotion, whatever processing thing, then that would, theoretically make you more anxious. Now, what does alcohol do? Alcohol potentiates a GABAergic response, that is, makes it stronger and inhibits NMDA or AMPA, I forget, one of the two, inhibits glutamate receptors of some sort, either AMPA or NMDA glutamate receptors. So the thought is, okay, maybe these animals, when they're stressed when they're stressed younger, the impact of that stress is something that results in a negative, or results in an imbalance in signaling within the amygdala. So following stress, these animals, are kind of antsy and, somewhat anxiety-y, and that's due to the impact of, this chronic stress. Why do those animals then prefer ethanol over animals in adulthood, or, unstressed animals? Well, because ethanol would then help to then balance that, dysregulation in signaling. If you don't have enough GABAergic and you have too much glutamatergic signaling, ethanol will help to balance that. So therefore, the animals will be taking in more ethanol as a form of self-medicating to make them feel just better and less stressed and whatever, to put that signaling, the balance of excitatory and inhibitory signaling, back to what is closer to like physiologically normal. So that's the hypothesis that I'm working with here. I'm taking the whole SSRI part out of it. I'm rewriting this experiment to involve glucocorticoid receptor knockouts. So theoretically, those won't be impacted by stress, and those animals should be normal, whereas those that have the glucocorticoid receptor in there normally should be impacted by stress and therefore have heightened ethanol preference. So what I'm doing is isolating A, the amygdala, and B, the impact of glucocorticoid receptors and cortisol and all that junk on the rise of adult onset alcoholism and stuff. That probably didn't make a lot of sense, but I more or less get it. I just have to make sure this is fine. And it makes sense in the paper, because I have to rip out a bunch of it and put new bits in and make sure that it doesn't have any traces of the old bits in it. So there. Also, I got an email. I got 2 emails within the course of 6 hours from RPG Maker people. One of which was when I sent them the email in Japanese, and they said, you can't use assets from white ties in a secondary work because, you know, they have custom assets and they're not the stock assets, so you can't do that. So what I thought that meant, I don't know, I wasn't sure. It seemed like they sort of misinterpreted what I was asking, but it doesn't matter. Because then later, I woke up this morning and I got an email at 5 a.m. from the American RPG Maker people who said something slightly more positive. Let me see. Apologies for the wait. I had to speak to someone who knew, when they misspelled, a little more about this than I do. At the moment, we need to speak to so-and-so, whether we want to use your translation or not, as they own the rights to RPG Maker. It is possible that our distribution rights for that material are limited as well, in which case an official translation might not be possible. However, we'll try to, in parentheses, at the very least, approve a non-official translation and allow you to distribute it. But we will be in touch. Please do not hesitate to contact us again. So, that sounds slightly promising. At the very least, we will allow you to distribute it, and by distribute, I mentioned specifically throw it on Steam, so that would be nice. I just gotta get this stupid paper out of the way. But, yeah, I don't know. The Japanese people, whatever. I'll see. But the English people seem to be slightly more gung-ho about doing it. You know, like, at the very least, we will let you do this. So, like, to me, that seems fine. That's what I want, I think. I thought this would have crashed. Normally I have like Metro apps up and when I stream they all break. But yeah, it'd be cool to get that on Steam so then I can at least feel like I did something. These are pitfalls I have to write in. Just mental notes. Okay. So this can actually just be jacked entirely from my old version, which they didn't like. Yoink. Oh, actually, this is more or less fine. Okay. These effects, it is difficult to protect animals, stress and everything. Isolation. Restraint stress protocol. This is actually what I pretty much took and put this in this already, so I don't need to change that much. Should the restraint stress protocol not be sufficient in producing myself and cortex responses? I'll trim more rigorous mechanism resistance to. Yeah, I guess that's fine. I don't even need to change that much. Similarly, is this the paper that put the corticosteroids right in the water? I want to say it is. It's one of these. I always get these stupid papers mixed up because there's 1,000 of them. Which is the one that did the brain pokes? How can I... there's a paper here that I can't find and I Google all the time and I don't know how I keep losing it. It's the one where they put the cannulas in. Is it this one? No? damn it. Dude, seriously. How do I keep losing this paper? Where is that paper where they put the cannulus in? God damn it. I keep looking for this. And I can never find it because it's in here. Is this it? Whoops. Yeah, that's the one. I like how they put green food coloring in it because, you know, that's important. If the junior mice drink ethanol to relieve stress, will the same set of mice drink ethanol when they become adults? What? Okay, this is how it works. Young plus stress equals alcoholic adult. Adult plus, I can't do this with a mouse very fast. Adult plus stress equals no alcoholic adult. And then just regular mouse given alcohol is not going to drink it unless it's specifically bred to drink it. Similarly, what is this? Corticosterone. Great. Fine. No. This is all screwed up. This part's gotta be thrown out. I'll be back.